On to the rest of the bottom six. So quick hits. The other two guys they added. Sam Lafferty, 2 years, $2 million per year, and Nicolas Aube-Kubel for 1 year, $1.5 million. We'll talk about Lafferty. As of right now, it seems like he slots in as their fourth line center. Now, look, Sam Lafferty, not the greatest player in the world, especially offensively. He's not going to give you anything there, but he's always held up in his own end. And he's an energy guy. He's a juice guy. He's going to lay the body. He's a speedy player. He's going to give you 100% each shift. He's one of those archetypes. He is basically there to give you those heavy shifts. Aube-Kubel, on the other hand, one-way player, but that one way, he does extremely well. He put up some of the best defensive metrics in the league last year. Now, those can be up for debate because he basically spent all of that time creating those metrics with Nick Dowd in Washington. Aube-Kubel played a lot of those minutes with Malenstein. So it's interesting. It's interesting if they plan on keeping those two as a duo, maybe with Sam Lafferty, I don't know, and seeing if they can repeat some of those results. But Kubel, same thing. Speedy guy, going to give you those heavy shifts, but he has a lot more defensive upside there, I think. So there's your bottom six. What do you guys think about those signings?
Christian, go ahead. Then I got some stuff.
I'll keep it short and sweet. This team, this regime, this coaching staff had a vision for its bottom six, and they went out and they put that vision to work. They got fast and they got physical players. They got good defensive players. The scoring might be a little lackluster, but, that might not be what they want to be about down in the bottom six now. It might just be about, playing solid defense. Maybe they're trying to build this team into a more well-rounded roster. Because we saw last year, they had complete breakdowns, like multiple times a game. You saw how the first periods, like just thinking about them, just flashbacks to 2 minutes into a game. Can't even get comfortable before you're down 1-0. So I like it. I like the physicality they brought in. I like the speed they brought in. And
Say it.
The grit. I needed the grit.
The hits,
baby.
Hits equals wins.
This is the most we've ever seen Kevin Adams talk about hits, by the way. Like in years past, it was like, oh, they don't need to be physical. They'll be physical like in their own ways. He's specifically bringing up how many hits these players are having.
It will be interesting. Look, Lindy's teams have really never been that type, but even that, Granato was definitely on the. I mean, people would just call him soft, but he was definitely on that end of belief where he preached about it. He said, "I don't tell players to go and hit people. I don't tell them to chase hits." But that mentality, it's in the back of their head. So it's like, well, what's chasing hits? Should I go after him now? And inevitably it led to them being one of the worst hitting teams in hockey. So, plus it coincides with how young they are. They were never going to be a high hitting team with their youth. So, plus, you're at these fan events and Kevin Adams, every other question is being asked. Is Owen Power going to be a meaner player? Or are you going to get someone to protect Dylan Cousins? So inevitably, he's probably thinking to himself, like, you know what? I need to shut these people up.
We need an enforcer.
I'm sick of it. So, no, it's definitely, look, they've been preaching about it. They want to be harder to, how many times has Kevin Adams said in the last 2 months, we want to be harder to play against?
In just about every sentence.
It's a clear vision. You're seeing that. You're trading a second-round pick for Brett Malenstein, giving term to Sam Lafferty, and signing a guy like Nicolas Aube-Kubel. So this is their vision. And for the first time in quite some time, their bottom six, it has an identity. It does. We'll see if it translates to winning. We'll see if it's a good identity. I can tell you they're not going to score. It's not going to be a lot of goals in that bottom six, but you don't have Victor Olofsson down there anymore. You don't have Tyson Jost down there anymore. Your defensive upside definitely increased. And you're going to have another year of Zach Benson. And you're going to have Jordan Greenway. I mean, he basically wasn't a bottom six player last year, so you might as well call that a new addition in some sense. So it's basically a whole new bottom six, aside from Krebs and probably Benson too. So it's exciting. And as we saw, Zemgus Girgensons will not be returning to the Sabres. He signs in Tampa Bay for 3 years. So it's officially a new era for
Goodbye, King.
For that bottom six, and it is exciting to see. I'm excited to see how it works out. Kevin Adams said at his press conference today that Lindy Ruff had a large amount of input on who he went after. So this is just as much Lindy's vision as it is Kevin's. So excited to see how they bring it to life.
Kevin Adams does have this vision for the bottom six. Even if you don't like the signings, you can't disagree that there is a vision, not only just the physicality, but also speed. Like all three of our new additions, that being Malenstein, oh boy, this is going to be a name I can't pronounce.
Aube-Kubel.
Aube-Kubel.
Oh my God.
And Lafferty. Okay. They're all fast. So these stats from Jay Fresh. So this is just basically the most, based on their speed bursts above 20 miles an hour throughout the whole league. So this is everybody if they played more than 200 minutes. These three players are all in the top 50. Two of them, which is Aube-Kubel and Lafferty, are in the top 12 for the most speed bursts in a game or throughout the season. And then Malenstein is 46th out of all the players in the league. So that was a clear vision that they want to get faster and more physical. And that I think that all leads to also the forechecking. They want to get harder forechecking. They want these guys to be able to dump and chase and then actually get to the puck, unlike our forechecking the past few years where we dump it in and it comes right back out.
Yep. Yeah, the two Fs, fast and physical.
Yep. And then speaking of Malenstein and Aube-Kubel, they did play together last year. So there is 20 lines last year that played over 400 minutes. And one of them was Malenstein and Aube-Kubel.
Was it with Dowd?
Yes, it was with Dowd. Yes. So there's only 20 lines. They played 426 minutes together. Now I'm getting all these stats from Money Puck. They had the lowest expected goals for. I mean, that shouldn't be a surprise. They're the fourth line. Other lines are McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, Bennett. Like it's a lot of the better lines in the league. But this fourth line stayed together pretty much the whole year for the Capitals.
And the difference between those two is those other lines that you mentioned. I mean, maybe Bennett's line. I mean, what was the Bennett line? What was that trio?
It was Kachuk, Bennett, and Verhaeghe.
So yeah, that's a line. Was not getting probably a ton of defensive zone starts. And Connor McDavid's line was definitely not getting a ton of defensive zone starts. The Dowd, Aube-Kubel, Malenstein line, that one was getting defensive zone starts. They were not given the easy assignments. So, it's Money Puck, great tool, but it's probably not the most accurate form, but it's a good indicator. Like, that is not inaccurate.
And with you saying that, with all their defensive zone starts, out of the 20 lines, they were second with the least percent goals against, only behind Nyes, Matthews, and Marner. So while they're not going to produce anything offensively, they were basically a shutdown line for the Capitals. That is what you should expect. And actually, if you were to bring the minutes down to 300, there's only about 40 lines that have played 300 minutes. And out of all of them, they were still the third best for goals against. So Malenstein and Aube-Kubel have been very successful together in the past, at least last year, as the shutdown fourth line. And I think that's what you got right here. You got a physical, fast, hopefully shut down line that you could match up against other teams' top two lines.
Do you think those two players might suffer from not playing with Nicolas Dowd?
I think so. Dowd is one of the most underrated players in the league, I think. But, hockey's a team sport. It's not, and Dowd's not Connor McDavid. He's a very good player, and it sounded like the Sabres were in on him. So it honestly would have been interesting to see if they just reunited the Holy Trinity. But they'll miss him a bit. They probably, like Aube-Kubel's defensive numbers last year were nuts. They were nuts. They were probably a large part due to Dowd. But they're two good defensive players. Very good. I mean, here's a fun, quick guessing game. This is going off Evolving Hockey. Aube-Kubel and Malmsteen. What percentage of offensive zone starts do you think they got? The two of them. They're both the same number.
What is give me a percentage average number?
I don't know what an average is.
Because
guess just think about it rationally, in your head. They're a defensive zone line, defensive zone players, so they're going to get a majority of defensive zone starts. But what percentage of their starts do you think were in the defensive zone?
I'm going to go 15%. And offensive zone or
defensive zone? Defensive zone.
Oh, 85%.
Actually, no, offensive. My bad. Offensive.
15%.
Okay. JP?
I was going to say 25.
2%.
Oh my God.
2%.
They're leaving them out to dry.
2%.
Oh my God.
They only started in the offensive zone 2% of their shifts. Think about how insane that is. That is not an easy assignment at all. So I think there's a clear vision there. That's what they want them to bring over to this team. So yeah, they have an identity now. They're, this is going to be a bottom six. Like I said, they can't score, but they're fast. They're going to hit. They're going to forecheck, and they can play defense. But when you talk about that, that's fine. If that's your bottom six group, if that's what they do, that's great. It just makes it more apparent. That means your top six needs to carry the offensive load. And if Jason Zucker's your big addition, that makes it all the harder to do. It just makes it more apparent they need another addition there. They just do. They just do. It's unacceptable if they don't get it. It doesn't mean they won't survive without it. But that's not the solace that Kevin Adams should take. Go and make your team better right now. In a big way, a big splash. And Christian talked about this last episode, and he's mentioned it today. They still don't have that guy, that bona fide guy that they're going to come in, they're going to do this, score goals, do whatever, play the role you need them to. Hey, I think Aube-Kubel is a good addition. I think Malmsteen could fit their needs. Sam Lafferty, I'm not the biggest fan of the player, but on the fourth line, you will be fine. And Zucker, good player, but he's basically replacement to slightly above replacement level. They don't have that big guy yet. That big addition where everybody just looks and be like, wow, that's a great addition for the Sabres. Because you will find your doubters about Zucker. I mean, he only had 14 goals last season. They need that. They need that. If they're going to build their bottom six this way, that's great. I think the Oilers showed, and even the Panthers to a degree. I mean, what was the Panthers' fourth line in the Cup final? It was Kevin Stenlund, Kyle Okposo, and Ryan Lomberg. None of those players are great players. You don't need your entire lineup to be. You don't need to construct the 05-06 Sabres where Thomas Vanek's on your fourth line.
They don't all have to be all-stars.
You don't have to roll 4 scoring lines.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to roll 3. You can survive with 2 scoring lines, but they have to be good scoring lines. And the Sabres have one, and I trust Cousins and Quinn. I do. I think they're going to have big seasons, but they need another. They need two legitimate scoring lines.
They're missing
you also-
one guy, man.
You also need a good power play with that.
And Jason Zucker is going to help with that. He is a good power
Yeah.
play player, and we know they're going to make that a big focus going into next season.
Mhm.
As we get closer to the season, look, I think there's a real optimistic spin on looking at the beginning of the season. I think Tage is due for a huge season. I think Cousins is due for a big bounce back, and I think Quinn's due for a big breakout. And seeing Benson take another step, and seeing Peterka maybe take another step, and maybe seeing Owen Power rise to star status. Like, there's going to be positive things to talk about that are going to make you excited and make you believe that they're playoff caliber. And you could do that right now. But I need to emphasize they just need another addition. Jason Zucker cannot be your biggest forward addition walking in to the 14th season of a 13-year playoff drought.